On this episode of China Uncensored, making mischief in the South China Sea. Hi, welcome to China Uncensored. I'm your host, Chris Chappell. A U.S. Navy destroyer has just sailed through sacred Chinese territory. And by sacred Chinese territory, I mean the artificial islands China began building 3 years ago in the middle of the ocean. The destroyer USS Dewey sailed 12 miles off the coast of this, Mischief Reef, which is a fitting name. It's part of a chain of islands called the Spratlys, a chain claimed by China, Taiwan, Vietnam, and the Philippines. Except this isn't what the Mischief Reef looks like today. That photo is from 2014, when it was just a boring old submerged reef underwater at high tide. But while those other countries have been trying to solve the dispute with international arbitration, the Chinese Communist Party took action. First, they dredged up a little sand, and then some more sand. And now that little reef is a full-fledged island. Yes, a tropical island getaway full of white sand beaches, palm trees, a well-stocked tiki bar, and of course, military installations.
China, in addition to building those islands, is now militarizing them, basing military aircraft, military warships, and missile systems on those manufactured reefs. The U.S. responding by sailing its warplanes and warships through those waters to demonstrate its point that they remain international.
Now, this isn't new. The U.S. has been conducting what it calls freedom of navigation operations, or FONOPs, for years under former U.S. President Barack Obama. Thanks, Obama. That's when the U.S. Navy sails ships through international waters to challenge excessive territorial claims made by other countries. And according to the U.S. Navy, they're pretty standard procedure, and not just directed at China. In fact, last year, the U.S. Navy challenged excessive claims from 22 countries. But this is the first patrol conducted in the South China Sea since Donald Trump took office. And just like FONOPs are standard procedure for the U.S. Navy, reacting to them with anger is standard procedure for the Chinese Communist Party.
The actions by the U.S. undermined China's sovereignty and security interests, and they are very likely to cause unexpected sea and air accidents.
Yeah, if you're not careful, maybe one of your precious destroyers might accidentally fall down the stairs. In fact, according to China's Defense Ministry, 2 Chinese frigates had warned and dispelled the USS Dewey after it had entered its waters without permission. That isn't exactly how the U.S. put it, though. In fact, the U.S. has very little to say about the incident at all. CNN only got the story from an American official whose name wasn't cited. It follows a May statement from Pentagon spokesperson Captain Jeff Davis that the Trump administration is going to do things a little differently. Instead of announcing each of the FONOPs, they would only be released publicly in an annual report. Despite a strong campaign rhetoric against China, President Trump has been trying to build a positive relationship with Chinese leader Xi Jinping over the last few months, mostly because Trump wants China's support tackling the North Korea issue. This whole incident comes as Xi Jinping called for a strong, modern navy at the 12th Party Congress of the People's Liberation Army. It also follows Philippine President Duterte alleging that Xi Jinping threatened him with war if the Philippines drills for oil in disputed waters.
If you force the issue, we'll be forced to tell you the truth. What is the truth? We will go to war. We will fight you.
And despite what Duterte said last October,
I will break up with America. I would rather go to Russia and to China.
Now he seems to be asking for U.S. help.
We seek the help of America, a concerted effort of all the member states of the United Nations. Are they willing to fight? Because if they're willing to fight, we are. But kung ako lang, why would I do that? It will result in a massacre, and it will just destroy everything.
So maybe the Trump administration wants to show it will make good on its promise to defend the South China Sea. Or maybe it's just the U.S.'s turn to make a little bit of mischief at Mischief Reef. So what do you think about the U.S. Navy's freedom of navigation operations? Leave your comments below. And let me just take a moment again to thank everyone who supports this show by contributing via Patreon. Patreon is a website where you can pledge, for example, $1 per episode. And that allows the China Uncensored team to keep making great content for you every week. So click the button at the end to visit our page on Patreon. Thanks for watching this episode of China Uncensored. Once again, I'm your host, Chris Chappell. See you next time.